The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, August 21st, 2019, Season 15, Episode number 29. Welcome to another edition of The Break. We are live from Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. Cowboys are in their second practice here in Frisco of training camp. They will have practice today and then again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Then they get ready for their third preseason game this Saturday night against the Houston Texans at AT&T Stadium, followed by a couple practices next week at night on Monday and Tuesday. Got my crew here, Nick, Dave, Amber. How's everybody feeling today?
Feel fantastic.
Not as
AG back? No, I don't feel as fantastic as who you're about to say.
No, not as fantastic as 54.
No.
But you feel pretty fantastic.
I don't have $35.5 million in the bank, unfortunately. If I did, you wouldn't see me here right now. But I'm pretty good, all things considered.
That's a whole different conversation
Yeah.
we need to have later, that you wouldn't show up for work if you made millions of dollars. But anyway, go ahead. Amber, what were you about to say?
I said that's kind of depressing. I mean, when you start looking at these guys and how young they are versus yourself and how much money they make versus yourself, I mean,
Money's not the indicator of success.
And to know that we help promote these guys, you know,
Well,
we should be getting a cut.
Speaking of success, congratulations to you, Amber, and of course Nick too. Nick got one the other night. You guys picked up some hardware
Emmy winners
at the Emmy Awards the other night, and so very, very proud of you guys. We now have to, I guess, preface or finish when we say your names with Emmy Award winner, right?
All of
Emmy
us.
Award winning.
Each and
You could have done that.
Well, that was last year.
Yeah,
that was last year.
Just
No,
say,
but
where's
three
my
now.
title?
I know,
been?
right?
Yeah.
That was last
yeah,
year.
And Amber's got like 6.
So this is an Emmy Award winning show, even though the
Yeah.
show itself hasn't won. We're an Emmy Award winning show.
I think
All
it's 3 right here, right?
What?
The 3 of us have 3,
Yeah.
and then we got 3 over there.
She's
I
killing
know
it.
she's actually done this before. This is new. This is not new for her.
No.
Let's talk a little bit first before we get into Jaylon Smith, because I want to spend quite a bit of time talking about his new deal. Let's first start with catching up a little bit on some of the guys that returned to practice and one guy that has not returned to practice. Tank and Tyrone Crawford, they came back to practice yesterday. They are no longer on PUP, as I understand it.
Yes.
Is that correct?
They're back. They're back at practice. They're back, counting toward the 90. They're actually not here today. They're gonna be rotating. It's gonna be a very gradual process.
Right.
I really appreciate Jason Garrett's transparency. Just kind of, he said today, he was like, our goal with those guys is week 1. We're not worried about the preseason, which that's obvious. But Jason Garrett is usually reluctant to admit the obvious. So I appreciate that, Jason. They're going to be rotating and gradually ramping up their participation here over the next 2 or so weeks, and hopefully they'll be ready for the Giants.
There's some good stuff going on here
Yeah,
in
we're
practice.
in
I mean,
the
like,
middle
I
of
know
a
we're talking
compete
about these injured guys, but 2 players that just keep moving themselves up the depth chart have just made plays back to back. One of them, Justin Phillips, 44, might have been called for holding if there was more refs on the field, but great interception there. And then Devin Smith keeps making plays as well.
Yeah.
So,
I actually want to talk a little bit about Devin Smith, Nick.
He's your new pet cat, isn't he?
We were talking about this before we went on the air, and Dave, you made the point that you don't know if you would go the route of having.
That's not Rico Gathers. That is not Rico Gathers.
What's this guy's name again?
Marcus Lucas.
There you
Marcus,
go.
Lucas, John, Jeff, Joe. He's got too many first names. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you said, Dave, you didn't know that you would go the route of having a 6th wide receiver. And one of the things, and this actually gets to the point that I was going to ask about with Amari Cooper and his injury, my thought was there is not another receiver on this team right now of those guys that could possibly be cut that you think is starter caliber, that you would guess right now is ready to be a starter caliber wide receiver, unless you believe that what Devin Smith was coming out of college as a high second-round pick says that he is, and you've seen enough in training camp that suggests that maybe despite the injuries that have kind of derailed him to this point, maybe he's ready to reach that point. Would you keep him for that purpose? Does that change your opinion in having a 6th wide receiver on this team?
I think we touched on this yesterday. Is like Devin Smith intrigues me because, between talent and name recognition, I don't know if you could get him through waivers onto your practice squad. So for that reason, maybe you keep him and have a 6th receiver. But I'm not ready to say that he could carry the load for an injured Amari Cooper just because he's had a strong week of practice.
No, let's be clear. I'm not saying he's Amari Cooper. What I'm saying is if you are at all concerned about your wide receiver, your best wide receiver, and his availability throughout a long season when he's starting the season with plantar fasciitis, do you think of all these guys? He is a guy that can take some reps and take some meaningful reps and actually be able to function much better than these other young guys.
I guess when you think about it, obviously you have Gallup, but that's not really Randall Cobb's game. You'd probably prefer to use him inside. It's definitely not Tavon Austin's game.
Right.
And so, Devin Smith makes a lot of sense in that scenario. You know, we haven't even – Noah Brown can obviously play X receiver, but we haven't even seen him. So, again, I don't know if I feel great about it if you actually need it, if it actually comes to that, but it does make sense just purely from a workload standpoint.
Right. Nick, you were laughing about something. Was it about that or something you saw on the field?
No, the fact I thought we would start the show off talking about a second-round pick named Smith, but I didn't think it was going to be Devin Smith.
You never know what you're going to get.
You don't, and especially when you're watching practice and things just jump out at you, right?
You know, this guy right here, 81, John V. Johnson, is going to be – to me, I just put Devin Smith as – it's not really – it's a simple thing. He's moved himself into the category where we can talk about John Vay, him, Reggie Davis is now on his way down. Jalen Guyton has stayed down there. It's really about Cedric Wilson and then John Vay Johnson and Devin Smith. And I think Devin Smith is the leader in the clubhouse right now for that spot. But then again, don't forget when all the cuts are made, then there's 50 other receivers, about 10 of them that could jump all of them. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Now I do want to talk about if we can get this part here. This is their compete period. They've been doing one-on-ones as you've been seeing. But this is like a big deal for Jason Garrett. As you can see, he wants the whole team there.
He loves it.
We just don't get a chance to show this that often, but he wants the entire team to see. He'll call 2 players out. I think we've got John Vay Johnson on the right. I don't know the corner who we got.
Looks like Donovan Alumba.
Is it Alumba?
Yeah.
And so this is a good opportunity for both of them there. Hopefully we can get a wider angle for this because we know Dak's going to throw it.
That's like a quadruple move.
Yeah. And once again,
that's a PBU for young Donovan.
He's
Alumba.
got like the off-season record for most PBUs. I mean, he just gets those long arms on.
Man.
Yeah,
he's just so long. And I love this period because I think it is to me the quintessential thing of being a professional athlete.
Yes.
Because if you can't perform with all your teammates watching, then you're not going to be able to perform when there are 80,000 people in a stadium watching and a bunch of others watching on television.
Donovan Wilson and Marcus Lucas, the new tight end.
Okay, that ball took way too long. I mean, this is one of those things that the offense that I think they hold the ball too long down here. Yeah. There's no way you're going to have that much time.
If you haven't let it go after like 2.5 seconds, it should be considered a sack, in my opinion. And in this setting particularly, where there's nothing, there's no pass rush or anything.
So you'll see these triple moves. This is the one that always is tough. It's the running back against like the linebacker, and the running back Mike Weber's going to take it. He'll do some triple move on the linebacker, which
linebacker is that? I can't see the name.
I think it's Nate Hall.
Nate Hall, I believe.
Northwestern.
All right, just break out.
I'm not calling that a touchdown.
No.
Tell you that. Okay, cool.
Sorry.
Well, all that being said, let's talk a little bit though about Amari Cooper's injury. Yesterday, there was a little bit of news kind of there talking about the fact that he has plantar fasciitis. And he kind of downplayed it a bit.
Can you explain a little bit what that means as far as the injuries? Because I've gotten some questions on what exactly does that mean.
You want to take that one?
I've heard it's basically like walking on needles on your feet.
I've heard that too.
It's just like there's about 15 needles and you're walking on them every day. Just put 15 little thumbtacks in your shoe and then walk. I mean, it's probably not that bad, but I mean,
doesn't sound fun.
It's got some painful moments to it, and it's hard to heal because what do you do? You have to walk. I mean, unless you're going to be in a wheelchair. So there's different ways to treat it, but it's not good for a guy that's supposed to run routes all day.
Well, here was this quote yesterday, and it was a little bit curious to me. Here's what he said. He said, like I said, it's not really that bad, especially just walking around. But to do the things that I do on the field, obviously, I'll be cutting really hard, stopping really hard. Those things, I haven't tried to really do that, so I couldn't really tell you. That's the part that makes me a little bit nervous when you talk about an injury like this.
He also, somebody at that press session asked him to classify the pain on a scale of 1 to 10. He said it's a 3 just walking around.
Right. That's my point.
3 doesn't hurt a lot, but if all you're doing is I was like, Amari, that sounds really bad, man. But then 5 minutes later, he was like, I've had a 1,000-yard season playing with plantar fasciitis too. So,
Yeah.
He knows his body. But it completely, because when a guy misses like 8 practices, you're like, okay, well, this is a little bit more serious than they're letting on. Usually, I don't know if that's really the case here. It just makes sense that you probably don't want him practicing with an injury that will only get worse as you go. So I think the hope is to basically keep him from running and cutting for as long as possible, and hopefully the pain is subsided by the time the season rolls around. And Amari said that's what he thinks is going to happen. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think he practices Wednesday before the Giants game, does not practice on Thursday before the Giants game, a little bit of walkthrough Friday, and then go play. That's what I would think. I think
Sounds
you need to
about
get back out there on Wednesday, but not 3 days in a row, see how it feels, and then get to work.
Yeah, you mentioned he had a 1,000-yard season. Basically, there were 2 seasons where he had plantar fasciitis and says he played through them. At Alabama in 2013, he had 45 receptions and 736 yards. And then obviously his rookie year with Oakland had a 1,000-yard season there. Let's talk a little bit. Let's go ahead and move on and talk a little bit here about Jaylon Smith. Yesterday, it's announced that he gets a 5-year, $64 million deal. The guaranteed money was $35.5 million. The average salary per year was $12.8 million. When you start looking at that across the league, across inside linebackers, both categories, he's now in the top 5 of paid players. I think he is 5th in average salary, which again is a good thing for the Cowboys. And he is 3rd among inside linebackers at guarantees. When you look at all that stuff and kind of look at where he is relative to other inside linebackers, do you think this was a good deal for the Dallas Cowboys?
Oh, my God. I think it's an amazing deal for the Dallas Cowboys. And here's, I feel like I owe Jaylon Smith an apology, to be honest with you, because it was like a week ago where, Jerry dropped that hint for us about a 4th contract, and we were speculating. And I was pretty much like, I don't know who it is, but it can't be Jaylon Smith because he's lost so much money in this draft process, and he's such a good player. And I'm looking at it right now. Bobby Wagner's making $18 million a year. C.J. Mosley's making $17 million a year.
Yep.
Logic dictates Jaylon Smith will be able to command something like that. And I just didn't think there was any way they'd get a deal done with him ahead of time. And shame on me. I think you got to remember that, everybody's different. Every player's different. And the Jones family yesterday went out of their way to make it clear that this was Jalen's idea. He brought this to the family. He was like, I want to get something done. I want to be a Cowboy. We talked about this off the air. He understands the importance of branding and what the power of the Cowboys can do for him, and he's making far below market value. He's only number 6 in average salary, and the guarantee's nice, but it is structured in a way that it is going to be a bargain. Yep. And I just did not think there was any way that was going to happen.
Yep. I think what's the saying? Fool me once, so you're not going to fool me twice. You're not going to fool him twice. He bet on himself before and he lost. He's not going to do it again.
You're talking about the bowl game.
I'm talking about playing in the bowl game, which now has set the precedent for a lot of players. The players that aren't going to be the top 5 pick, players that just might get drafted, they don't want to play in bowl games now. And I'm sure it causes problems in the locker room. You're a captain, you're a senior, whatever, and you're one of the best players. I'm sure people are upset by that when that happens. But you have to make a decision, and he was going to play in that game, and he got hurt, and he lost a lot of money, and he's not going to do it again. So when the money's available now, it's back on the table, you go and get it. And he might be able to make 17 or 18 million if he would have played this year, played a Pro Bowl level, but he also sees the brand, like Dave says. He sees the ability to make more money by being linked up with the Cowboys. So I think it was a win-win situation. And
it's such a win-win. And, I mean, obviously you have to assume good health, which, we're all hoping for that for Jalen. But he's making less than what Deion Jones, who was in a similar position, signed for in Atlanta earlier this year. I think
14.25 is what his average is.
So more than almost $2 million less than what Deion Jones is getting. If he had played through this season again, in my head, I was envisioning a holdout scenario where the Cowboys tag Jalen for $4.5 million as a restricted free agent, and he doesn't show up to camp because that's so absurdly lower than what he's worth.
Right.
And like I said, it makes me feel like I owe him an apology because in an age where so many players gun for the top of the market, that clearly was not his top priority. He wanted security. He wanted to be able to tie himself to this brand for basically the rest of his career, or at least the rest of his prime.
Yeah.
And, like I said, like, you don't see that often these days. And that doesn't make anybody wrong for gunning for top dollar, but that's just kind of become the norm in the NFL. Stephen Jones even said it. He was like, let's not forget that agents work for the players. Like, ultimately, it's up to the player what you want to do, which to me was a not so subtle shot at the other three guys on this team that are looking for new contracts. He's like, not everybody wants that, and that's fine too. And if Jalen stays healthy and keeps playing well, it's going to work out beautifully for him and the Cowboys.
Yeah, and I think one of the stark things I'll mention here before we go to break is it's not even just about the fact that he wasn't setting the market. He was significantly below the top market guy. Like, when you're talking about just the average salary, Bobby Wagner's up at $18 million. He's down close to $13 million. That's a significant difference. What he did was basically settled in at about that third, fourth guy and where they kind of all there in a group. You got guys like Quan Alexander and Deion Jones and Luke Kuechly. From the standpoint of both their guarantees and their average salaries, he kind of settled in around that area and didn't really even shoot to be above those guys. It kind of fits in with those guys more than anything else.
It's hard to remember now, but if you think back to Tyron Smith, he signed his extension after one Pro Bowl. We knew he was talented, but he had not become what he is right now. Signed for a bargain at the time, knowing that the market would outpace him, and he seemed to prefer the security over that. It reminds me of that, and hopefully it works out just as well, where this will allow the Cowboys some flexibility in the future if he keeps that number low. So,
all right, we're going to go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, I will ask the question to you guys: how much do you think this deal affects, or does it affect the other three guys that are out there waiting for deals? We'll talk about that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
While a player could look good on paper, it's when he's out on the field that you really find out what he's made of. That's why the Cowboys rely on more than just stats and scouting reports when building their team. When picking a tractor, it's why you should rely on more than just specs and features. You've got to take it out and put it to the test. The Cowboys did when they named John Deere their official tractor. Experience one for yourself. Visit myjohndeeredealer.com/football.
Do you want the most interesting, up-to-the-minute Dallas Cowboys news straight from the Star in Frisco? How about exclusive and on command? That's right, news and nuggets you can't find anywhere else. With our exclusive Cowboys content on Alexa, you can have all the answers, secrets, stories, and more. What's Stephen Jones thinking during a game? What's Joe Looney's favorite pregame meal? We take your questions to Cowboys players and coaches, and you can hear the answers directly back to you. Just say, Alexa, open Dallas Cowboys.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
The excitement of Dallas Cowboys football is back at AT&T Stadium.
The place is going crazy in Arlington, Texas.
Don't miss your chance to see the Cowboys live when they host their NFC East rivals, the Eagles, Giants, and Redskins, plus the Green Bay Packers and more.
Elliott works his way through and walks the dog.
Single game tickets are on sale now. Get them before they're gone.
First and goal, quarterback sneak. Prescott pushes up the middle. Touchdown.
Visit DallasCowboys.com to get your tickets today.
Back to the break.
Welcome back. We're in the second segment of the break, live from the Sports Center at the Star in Frisco. We are talking Cowboys football. Cowboys are out here practicing. They have about another, a little under an hour left of practice today. They'll be back on the field tomorrow at 11 a.m. if you guys want to get out and check that out. And then on Monday and Tuesday of next week, they'll have practices in the evening at 5:45 both those days. So if you have a chance to come on out, then come out and see the Cowboys up close and personal.
It seems chippy down there. Like, it seems like I've seen a couple of times where guys are kind of running over each other.
I thought that was in here. It's a little chippy.
No, we're good. But Leighton Vander Esch just kind of throwing people around. Like, I don't know if they're – I'm not saying we're going to have a fight down there, but
maybe we will.
It just feels like, sometimes you can see it coming a little bit. I don't know why. I've seen more, like, pushing and shoving a little bit, especially from the defense. They look mad. Sean Lee.
That's an interesting thing, though, because this training camp has been notorious, in my opinion, notoriously without a lot of that. Usually in camp, you get to about week 1.5 to 2 weeks, and you're having, like, major blow-ups because guys are just tired of hitting each other. It didn't seem like that happened. I mean, there were basically 2 fights in camp this year. None of them really escalated to the point where it was an all-team kind of everybody pushing, shoving thing.
It would be ironic if we got all the way through Oxnard without any real incidents and had the fights happening here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then they get back here into the nice air-conditioned confines.
Have we seen any of the fights happening here from previous year?
Not that
I don't recall.
Not really.
I don't recall.
Garrett,
not big fights.
Jason Garrett doesn't want to admit this, but, like, it tamps down a little bit in terms of intensity when you get back here. Like, you got 4 practices left before you're worried about the regular season. Nobody's trying to get hurt right now.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit. Let's continue the conversation on Jaylon Smith. Obviously, he gets paid. There's still the obvious of the 3 guys out there that have not gotten paid. They're all 3 still waiting for deals, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of movement happening with either of those 3. Do you think that this deal in any way affects that? Do you think that those guys watching that press conference yesterday or hearing about that press conference yesterday, that maybe that forces them to say, or not forces, but maybe incites them to tell their agent, hey, I'm ready to just go ahead and get this deal done? Do you think there's an effect that happens from that?
I think so. I think maybe Cooper, if I was Amari Cooper, especially with the injury, I think I would, whatever's on the table, I'd probably go for that. But Jerry did say there's less pie. I don't know. He sounded like he was joking, but I bet he's not. Like, they know how they can get all these guys done. But I just feel like if I was one of them, I'd be like, yeah, let's get in on this, sooner than later.
I think that's what they probably want to happen.
Yeah.
But Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, and Zeke Elliott all employ highly talented agents who I don't think they're going to take the bait. Maybe I'm falling for the same trap twice because I just said no 2 players are the same, but all 3 of those guys have kind of set a precedent that does matter to them. And I don't think Amari Cooper's signing anything until Julio Jones signs his deal and so on and so forth. So I think another deal will get done, but I don't think the Jalen deal has anything to do with it.
I'm starting to be very concerned about Zeke and what's going to happen there. And, seeing how the fans are reacting to this and seeing them kind of starting to turn their backs on him due to the fact of Tony Pollard causing some flashes and some light here during the preseason and training camp. But they don't like how Zeke has been acting through this. And I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not as far as Zeke. I know I've heard it from people over on the football side that this is really dumb on his part. He should be out here working and then trying to talk about his contract and doing all that, and he's not. But I'm really concerned about this, and I don't know if I'm ready to jump on the Tony Pollard train and say, oh, yes, we're going to win the Super Bowl with Tony Pollard. I'm not there yet. He's exciting. I'm excited to see what he can do, but can he really take this offense to where it needs to be? I don't know.
Do you guys think, do you agree with that? Like, thinking about that whole perspective of Zeke, like, this is not a smart move for Zeke. Do you think that he's hurting his overall, I don't even want to say credibility with fans, but we talked about brand a little bit earlier. Is he hurting his brand with fans, or is this one of those things where as soon as this deal is done, whenever it gets done, he scores his first touchdown, there is no bad blood, right?
What if Taco held out? Like, people would laugh, but they wouldn't care. The only reason that people care about this is because they want him to come back and they want him to do what. But is Amari Cooper not doing? Are we sure he's not doing the same thing?
Well, but the thing is, Amari's here. That's the point. He's here, and that's you can say what you want, but
foot hurts.
Actually, but the fact of the matter is, what we found out is what they were saying about his foot is actually not as crucial as it sounds like it is. Like, they were saying a heel bruise. Even day to day, we're thinking he'll be back in 2 practices, and now 8 practices later, you're finding out it's plantar fasciitis, and as you said, he's walking on needles every day. Like, that's a whole different thing.
Right.
So I don't know if that's necessarily him.
Who said plantar fasciitis?
He did. You don't think? You don't think that's accurate?
I don't know. I'm just saying. It'll get better when the Giants game comes.
Yeah.
It'll be better, and he'll be able to run.
And guess what? If Zeke were here doing the same thing and he was here by week 1, everybody would feel a lot better about it.
They're going to feel fine.
The point is he's not here, and that's the part that obviously for fans, they just want their team to play well, and him not being here hurts their chances of being able to play at optimal level.
Which is, I don't worry about what the fans think. And It was very well timed on Jaylon Smith's part. I can't say for sure if he did it on purpose, but to take a free team-friendly deal while 3 of his teammates are seeking top dollar, I think he endeared himself to a lot of fans who do care about that stuff. But it's not the fans I'm worried about their relationship with Zeke, because, yeah, as soon as he signs, they'll get over it. But I'm starting to sense –
not on camera.
They're starting to feel some it's starting to feel like some real animosity between Zeke and the front office. It started kind of playful.
Yeah.
But for Zeke's agent to come out and say that the Zeke who comment was disrespectful, and then I don't know if you saw Jerry's response to it yesterday, but there was no smiling, there was no laugh. He was like, "I've earned the right to do do that." Period.
The only time I've seen him like that is in business meetings. He gets very stern. That was not the public. That's not the typical Jerry public guy.
It was not twinkle in his eye, Jerry. It was like, screw you, Jerry.
He looked dead at that camera.
And on top of that, I mean, we said this off the air too. I almost felt bad for Jaylon Smith, because I was like, are we celebrating this guy's big day, or are we admonishing the other players through the press? Because that's kind of what it felt. It was. It absolutely was. And the amount of times they brought up that, Jalen and his agent did this great thing, and it's about more than top dollar. It's about what the brand can do for you. They might as well have looked right in the camera and addressed Zeke, Amari, and Dak's agents, in my opinion. And so I wonder how good their patience is with where Zeke is at right now, because it doesn't feel like they're very happy with him.
Who's next? Who's coming up next? Who do you think
That's a great question.
will come up next?
I think it's Dak.
You think?
Yeah.
I've heard it's really close, really, really close.
With Dak?
Yeah. And I don't think Cooper's in it really much of a hurry.
I don't think Cooper – I think the issue with Cooper is Cooper's not ready to do a deal. I think they would – Steven said as much, we would have done a deal a while back with Amari. It seems like he's just not ready to do a deal.
I think Amari go ahead.
I disagree. I think maybe it's Zeke. I think Zeke will be next because
really?
Yeah, because they're going to play week 1 with Dak. I think he'll play without a contract. I don't think Zeke will play without a contract, and I think they'll get it done. And I think he needs the money. I don't know who's going to come together. I think he leans a little bit more further towards their initial deal, but I think Zeke will be next.
But you said you're kind of hearing that they're pretty close with Dak. You don't think close enough to where this gets done in the next week and a half or next week?
I don't think there's a deadline on it like I think there's a deadline on Zeke.
Gotcha.
I just think maybe I'm wrong. I think they're ready to call Zeke's bluff.
I actually do too.
I think they are, because they've got Morris.
Classic.
They've got Morris. They've got Pollard. And hey,
it might turn out like that.
Maybe it'll change real quick if they go 0-2 without Zeke. But I think they're ready to call his bluff. I don't think they believe he'll miss $250,000 a week.
And honestly, I would suggest that because of the opponents in the first 3 weeks,
it
might actually work out for them.
Yeah.
They may actually be able to call his bluff and actually win those games, or win some of those games, go 2-1, let's say, in the first 3 weeks, and the running game it doesn't look bad. It looks like, wow, Tony Pollard, that's a pretty good run, right? It's that kind of thing to where it changes the whole, and that's the risk for Zeke, is that changes the whole complexion of the negotiations. Any leverage that he thought he might have had is completely gone at that point.
Right, because you run the risk of them saying, you know what, maybe we take this whole thing off the table, because when you look at what DeMarco Murray did, and McFadden had a good year, and then Zeke has been really good, maybe you keep rotating it that way and say, all right, maybe it's not going to be Pollard and Morris forever, but we'll draft running back, but we're going to keep rotating this thing and keep the resources and the money on the offensive line.
And even when he comes back, it could be one of those things where they're like, this is a short-term thing. We're going to run him to death, and then we're going to maybe we put him on a maybe we decide that we're going to do a franchise tag on him, keep him for another year, or he sits. Either way, they have a lot more options at that point besides giving him a long-term deal. And that's where it gets really, really tricky for him and his representative on the decision that they make if they decide to miss games. There's a lot to factor in there.
Let's say he misses week 1 against the Giants, but the Cowboys win because it is against the Giants. But
you got no respect for the Giants, do you?
But because of the passing game, let's say the running game was not good at all, and they just couldn't move the ball that way. Does that still back up his case as far as what he's trying to do here?
It depends. I think it depends.
Or the Cowboys will be like, we still won through the passing game, and we just keep going.
As long as they're winning.
I agree. Because the thing about it is, even if they're consistently the running game isn't moving, but Tony Pollard has some flash moments, then the thought will be, yeah, the running game isn't where we want it to be. He's a rookie. We think he's going to get better as time goes on. And guess what? If he keeps being our guy that we use a lot, then he's going to get a lot better as the season goes on. So feel free to sit as long as you want. We're okay, right? That'll at least be their position to Zeke and his agent.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Going back to the comparison here of 25 years ago of the Emmitt Smith being, 0-2 without him, he still took less money than what he was offering, and the Cowboys had to pay more money than what they wanted. But so they still came together, even though Emmitt was looking like he was right on this. So either way, any kind of success in the running game, I think Zeke's going to have to lower his offer dramatically.
And yeah, we've heard, it sounds like they're close with Dak. I haven't heard anything that suggests they're close with Zeke, and obviously that can change really quickly. But like I said, I think there's a little bit of animosity there, sort of like a screw you type of thing. The longer this goes, the more they kind of feel determined not to cave. That's just the impression that I get.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take our final break. When we come back, I did actually want to get into a little different conversation with Jaylon Smith. I want to take us back to draft day and talk a little bit about the whole Jaylon Smith versus Myles Jack debate. And a lot of people had opinions about that, and that sided more with the idea of taking a guy like Myles Jack over Jaylon Smith. We're going to talk about some of the numbers and how they compare and what that means right now when the Cowboys do a deal with Jaylon Smith, a long-term deal. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to...
Right above the subway!
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus!
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's Best Network. Come into an AT&T store and learn how to buy one smartphone and get a second one on us. Based on GWS One score, September 2018.
It's time for Tailgate with the OtterBox boys.
OtterBox? The makers of those crazy protective phone cases?
The one and only. They're also wild about protecting parking lot parties from sad drinks. It's why they made elevation tumblers.
Rumor around the crockpot is they're made from stainless steel with a copper lining to keep temps hot or cold.
True. They even come in 7 different sizes, up to 64 ounce, the growler.
I like how OtterBox drinks. Thanks.
And that's been Tailgating with the OtterBox boys. Check out all the colors and sizes of their elevation tumblers at otterbox.com.
A man's Stetson doesn't just protect him from life's elements. It projects an unstoppable and legendary spirit, just like the men wearing silver and navy on the field every Sunday. Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. They are still the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find Stetson hats in the Pro Shop or at Stetson.com today.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with sideline access and photo ops with current players, alumni, and cheerleaders. That's not all, though. You'll get to talk X's and O's with Senior Director of Player Personnel Wilma and, of course, with yours truly, me, Brian Broadus. You can trust the official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and with us, you'll travel like a pro. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
Back to the break.
Welcome back. It is the final segment of the break. We are live from Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. Cowboys are on the field practicing. As you guys notice that are watching, you can see moments from practice. So glad you guys can join us. Let's talk some more about Jaylon Smith. I was interested in looking at the comparison between Jaylon Smith and Myles Jack, a linebacker that was drafted same draft as Jalen, actually 2 picks after him. And I remembered back during the time leading up to the draft, there was a lot of conversation about these 2 guys, mainly because they both had talent that most people thought was first-round talent, but there were questions about their health. Obviously, Jalen had the injury, but there were thoughts that Myles Jack had a degenerative condition that, although it may not have affected him early in his career, the longevity of his career was something that people question. That being said, I guess let's talk a little bit. Both of you guys I know, and Amber, you might have been involved in some of those conversations as well. I want to know kind of what you thought at the time. Before we saw what either one of those guys could do on an NFL stage, what were your thoughts about the comparison between Myles Jack and Jaylon Smith? We'll start with you, Nick.
I thought that it was no different than what they've done before with other players in the second round. They've got a great player, and Zeke already picked, and so let's take a chance on making it even better. We've seen it with other guys. We've seen it with Bruce Carter comes to mind. Sean Lee, I think, was just trying to get value, stealing value. They did it with Randy Gregory the year before, trying to steal value in the second round. And I think all along they thought they were going to get a fourth-round pick that would be a franchise quarterback too, so they felt like it was good.
Every year this happens where, there's camps about who feels what about which player. Taco Charlton and TJ Watt is a famous one. I didn't feel that way about either of these guys because I didn't think there was a chance in hell the Cowboys would draft either one. They didn't seem high on Jack because he was coming off of a meniscus surgery. He had a degenerative knee problem. Brian Broadus was in love with Miles Jack, but Brian would tell it, he's like, I love Jack, but I just know they're not going to draft him. I just know they won't. And I felt the same way about Jaylon Smith because everybody seemed afraid of drafting him. Like the word on the street was that the fourth round was the earliest anybody would consider it. And honestly, to this day, I told you this earlier, I don't think they would have drafted him if Kevin Dodd and Emmanuel Ogbah hadn't gotten snatched out from right underneath them. Those were the two guys they had eyes on heading into that night, and they both went off the board 31 and 33. Because the Patriots didn't have a pick that year, I believe. And so I was stunned when Jalen was the pick. And I don't want to call it a panic pick, but I do think they were like, well, we love this guy. We know he might not play, but our top two options are gone, so it's either bail out of here or pick this guy. And that's what they did, and it worked out like gangbusters, man. That's crazy. I can't get over how wild that is.
Just to show real quick before we get to Jason Garrett loves meetings probably more than anybody. I mean, he's one of those bosses that will meet with the team all the time, which is a good thing, right? Yeah. Get them all on the same schedule. But it looks like practice is over. Everyone's probably getting their autographs ready over in the fan. No, he just wants to chat.
He just has some stuff he needs to bring up.
How we doing, guys?
Yes, perfect. I bet he does that.
Does he start at the beginning of something like this? We're already an hour and a half into practice.
Well, we're tired.
What's up, guys?
We want some Gatorade.
Little bounce.
Amber, what did you think back in the day? Was this when they selected Jaylon Smith? Were you one of the people that was like, "This is not a good idea"?
Oh, I'll be honest. I mean, I'll let you guys drive this conversation because at the time I wasn't that involved in the draft. I didn't understand it that well. I didn't study the players that much. But
first draft.
One thing
for you, 16.
Yeah,
probably was.
Yeah.
First draft,
it was all very, very new to me.
This is boring.
But the only thing that stood out that to me I didn't understand was why would you choose somebody that's hurt and not ready to play? That was always my mentality, that you get players to help you now, not in the future. I didn't understand that vision of
most people still don't understand it.
It's hard to. And me, after being here for these many years now, and every year when they draft somebody for the future, it still upsets me a little bit because I'm like, no, let's freaking do it now. We need the help now. So, I mean, clearly it's paid off, and now we're taking advantage of it. But at the time, it was very confusing.
Those people that feel that way probably don't invest in startups and stocks and things like that, where you can see vision of things that grow and all that. I mean, impatient people, that exist, you like to do things right effing now, and Jerry, and that's the thing. Jerry is so impatient as well, but
he's a great businessman.
He's he's all about taking the risk for the bigger reward.
He sees value,
very much so.
And if you can tell me that this guy is fallen, but and let's not forget too, this part is, as we see the fullback going 30 yards down the field, which is, I think, it's a big wrinkle in Kellen Moore's offense to see that.
Yes.
I like this part. But to see, let's not forget the part that they had inside information. Their team doctor, Dr. Cooper, did the surgery. So that's the benefit.
That was
really a huge part.
And the whole, I always talk about it as like a roadmap. That was the only clue that you had about Jaylon Smith. They met him at the Combine, but so what? They meet a lot of people at the Combine. But their knowledge of the situation from Dr. Cooper, I think, was what swung it. And even still, like I said, it was shocking at the time, and, man, it's worked out really well. Which is because I kind of consider them together is Jalen and Randy. They were back-to-back second-round picks. One of them worked out really, really well. The other one, not quite so much.
That is the way draft goes.
That is the way the draft goes. You're right.
I was going to ask you here. We're flipping back and forth between offense here, but the favorite drill in all of camp to watch is probably these one-on-one pass rushing drills. I don't know if you are the same way, but they're going back and forth here. But you really get a chance to see one-on-one these guys going at it here.
And then we can actually see it right now.
Hopefully we can get – there we go.
Especially for offensive linemen where you're in a situation where often you see them working as a group. It's hard to always isolate them and see guys in a one-on-one situation, see how well they handle what their technique looks like. But this drill really does give you an opportunity to see that.
Jalen Jelk, 74, anyways, it really is a good drill to kind of see that. I don't think the people running the buttons are hearing us, but that's okay.
That's my favorite drill.
Yeah.
We can actually see it because we have a bird's eye view. They love to huddle around the guys while they do this. It's impossible to watch it at training camp.
Let's take some questions. We actually I put it out on.
A quick question, real quick. Okay, we talked about the draft and getting return in the investment and waiting and all that. Do you feel that this is actually finally the year where you really, really get all your returns from all the investments that you've made in trying to construct the
Which ones are you talking about?
Like Jalen specifically?
No, as a whole, the main return that you want to obtain, which is getting to the Super Bowl.
You're asking me if they're going to win the Super Bowl.
I'm not saying they're going to win, but, you have how is your feel right now from this team?
Well, think of it like this. This is one of the best draft classes in the history of the Cowboys. We feel like it is. And this is the fourth year of a really good class, which means you're getting it. They're still under market right now. We'll see if Dak changes and Zeke changes and all that. Jalen just changed. But I just think that fourth year, you're getting really good players on a really good draft class, combined with some other guys that you brought in. This is probably the best football team they've had in a long time. Doesn't mean they're going to win more games, but this is a really good football team.
Yep. If they're going to accomplish something meaningful, 2019 and 2020 are probably the years to do it.
Yes.
I've been saying that. And you know what? Again, kudos to him. I'm not, he's not a saint or anything, but Jaylon Smith taking the deal he just took is going to help them keep this roster deep over the coming years. I mean, Dak's going to hit the cap and all that good stuff, but paying somebody as good as Jalen, as little as they are, is going to help them, and hopefully that enables them to keep this thing rolling longer than a couple of years.
I'm scared.
About what?
I'm scared. I don't want to be sitting here next year saying, well, you know what, Kellen Moore, first year, we saw some great things. No, this is a year. Or like, oh, you know what, we have a different head coach now. He's going to be able to get it done. I just don't want to keep moving it and pushing until it. I mean, I'm sure all the fans feel the same.
That's what I say. Everybody out there listening is thinking the same thing.
Amber's been on this roller coaster for what, 3 years?
I don't like it.
Try 27.
Being a Cowboys fan is tough.
It's
hard.
My God,
it's hard.
I mean, unless you're a fan of the New England Patriots, it's pretty tough for everybody. I mean, only one team gets to be happy at the end of this thing, and the Patriots have done it 6 of the last 8 years or whatever it is.
And I think that was a really good point when you said basically it's this year and next year, because what you're going to start seeing from these contracts that they're having to do are the Cowboys are going to have to let go of good players. Some of the ones that come to mind, Lyle Collins, they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do there. Are they willing to pay him when they've already paid 3 other guys on that offensive line? Are they willing to pay Byron Jones, who was a guy that was an all-pro last year? Like, those are the tough questions that come up when you have to sign a lot of guys to big contracts. Then you have to start making decisions on guys, good players, and that's where it becomes very difficult.
But again, instead of, I'm going to be the optimist for a change, because
that's different.
I would have told you a week ago that Jaylon Smith would be one of those good players that you might have to let go. And
maybe
it didn't happen.
Well, that's also because he took the deal that he did.
Sure.
And that's the question then for a lot of these guys of, am I willing to take a little less money or sometimes a lot less money in order to stay here because I like being here? Or do I want to go out and go make the big money somewhere else?
Whoa.
And it may not end up being what I thought it was going to be. I may not even be able to play as well. I mean, Barry Church is a good example of that. Barry was a guy that got a great deal from Jacksonville. The way the Cowboys use him may have been better for his long-term success. We'll never know. But the fact is he took the big money, and I'm sure he'd probably do it the exact same way because he's set for generational wealth, right? But that's the decision I think a lot of guys have to make,
Seeing some I'm listening to you, kind of, but I'm also seeing some interesting stuff down there. Ricky Walker, 68, he keeps making plays. He keeps doing things. I mean, they drafted, Tristan Hill. They signed Christian Covington to help them in the middle. They've got Woods. But 68 keeps doing stuff. He's just hard to block. He's just active, and so I know Brian likes him, and he's just one of those guys that you kind of have to watch. But I had a question for you with thinking about something else that I saw. Who's the second best pass rusher on this team? Everyone's healthy. Everyone's back from suspension. Everybody's here. Who's the second best pass rusher?
I think Robert Quinn. At least I guess that's the way they paid him to be the second best, but we'll see.
All I have to go on is what I've watched, so I would say Malik Collins. I mean, and it might
from
be
the interior.
It might be Robert.
I should have
Quinn.
said defensive end. That's what I really meant.
Yeah. Sorry. If it's second best defensive end, then I would probably, again, based on what I've seen, I'd say Dorrance Armstrong. We haven't seen a whole lot of Robert.
Yeah.
Right.
I honestly
we haven't seen a lot of Tank either this year.
I think
we haven't seen a lot of guys
that's fair.
here in camp. I mean, are the top line guys, right?
I think when it's all said and done this year, I think the guy that's going to be playing the most is Kerry Hyder. I think he gets the second most sacks on the team.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I think he does.
Wouldn't shock me.
It wouldn't completely shock me, but
he's the Devin Smith, like you said. He's been banged up. He's had a little bit of flashes here. Had 8.5 sacks one year, but injuries and all that. But I think this is a perfect system for him.
And the great part is he's versatile. He can do a lot of different things. So you might get him out on the field in pass rush situations in any one of those spots, and he might be able to give you some real good pass rush.
He doesn't look like a defensive tackle that can go inside because he's wearing 51. But if he can get into that 90s with the hot boys or whatever, then he might look bigger. You know
so
how?
Is he not a hot boy yet?
I don't think he is.
I don't think you can be.
You got to get a sack first.
Well, you got to make the team first, which I think Kerry Hyder's going to.
Yeah,
but
he will.
You still have to get there.
Yeah. All right. We appreciate you guys joining us. We're back tomorrow, same time, 11:45. We'll be out here at practice. You guys come on out. Check this out. It's a cool environment for you to come out and see the team up close and personal. Till then, for Nick Eatman, Dave Hellman, Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!